I'm on a mini landscape photography road trip with a difference. I've decided to leave my modern gear at home and instead I'm using a teenage full frame digital SLR. The original Canon 5D Mark I, the classic if you want to call it that. In last week's video you saw me photographing the North Yorkshire coast in definitely far than less than ideal conditions. But today is another day, and also it's time to visit another county in northern England. Cumbria, home to the Lake District. Hi guys, well it's another day in another county. Yesterday I drove from the east, I came inland. I did a drone job earlier today, hence why I'm over here quite late, and now basically I'm in the Lake District. The weather's a bit meh again, very windy, which is a bit concerning for getting anything to be honest, but I'm going to try my best. But the forecast is looking really good tomorrow, so I'm staying at Allswater tonight, so I should be able to get up nice and early and get down there for sunrise, because I really want to try this camera out at sunrise, see how it performs. The one thing I have done is I've swapped out the lens for a 28-105 instead, so we'll see how that performs. But yeah, I'm just going to have a bit of a mooch and see what I can try and find to photograph. Right, so I've got my first shot of the day. As you can see, what I've done is I'm doing a portrait shoot on it, so I'm using this L bracket that I've got fitted to the camera. Now, this is just a universal L bracket, if anybody's wondering. I think it costs about £15 or something off Amazon. It's not brilliant, but it's fine for this. Now, this shot's been a little bit tricky, and I'm not sure if it's really going to work, but if I swing you around again, I'll show you why it's tricky. Can you see this nice bench that somebody's made there, which is great, but sort of really distracts from what I'm trying to achieve with this, which I was really attracted to this big tree here, and I think it just looked almost stately, you know. It had a presence. I like the presence, so I've had to recompose my shot in such a way that the trees hide in the bench behind. Now, as I say, I've switched the lens to the 28-105. I haven't used this lens, so I don't know if it's any good. Again, it's another kit lens. I'm not expecting any miracles from it. What I have done, I've decided to shoot at f4, so I'm shooting aperture priority, f4, because I want to try and basically blur as much of the background as possible, because it's all about this main subject for me. And I'm thinking probably a mono conversion. As much as I would like it to be colour, I think this will be a mono conversion. So fingers crossed we've got something, and let's have a look at it now. Right, I'm sticking with the same subject again. Now, I've put the camera really low this time, because what I want to do, I want to try and basically make the photo of the root here, because I think the root structure is brilliant. And also I'm hoping by being low I can give the impression of the size of the tree, because I think sometimes trying to get it all in and move further back and it starts looking like it's falling over due to converging verticals. And I think it just makes it weaker, so I want to just concentrate on the roots. Now, I've got the trees in the background. I would like to have them sharp, but I don't know. I'm going to try both, so we'll go for f4 again. And now I'm going for staggering f16, which it's probably not ideal. Now this shot I would like to be colour, because I think there's some lovely greens going on in the frame. I'm not entirely convinced that shot's going to work, to be honest. What I did notice when I was shooting f4 with this lens, that the vignetting around the edges of the frame was absolutely crazy. As I say, I've never used this lens before, so I'm not sure how good it is optically. It could be, may well be that the 28-80 that I've been using yesterday is actually a better lens, but I thought I'd give it a try. Okay, so it's probably become quite evident why I've come to this spot. The waterfall in the distance is Air Force. Now actually, you haven't been able to access it for a while because there was a storm a few years ago and all the trees came down and knocked the bridge out. and basically you couldn't do a circular walk, but it's open again now. Yeah, it's flowing really fast. I've kept this shot nice and abstract, to be honest. Now I'm hoping the greens come out nice, because I remember the Canon 5D used to have quite nice greens, and I think that changed on later models, but the Mark 1, the greens were quite nice, so I'm feeling mildly confident about that. I've fitted a polarising filter. The only problem I've had has been this mist and rain coming in, so I'm having to be constantly wiping it. But I think that's going to be me done for today now. What I'm going to do is I'm basically going to head down to the lakeside, do a bit of a recce for tomorrow morning. So in the meantime, I'm going to put this shot up on the screen for you now, and I'll catch up with you at dawn. Well, good morning, guys. The rain's finally stopped, the clouds are finally blown away, and the sun's come out. I didn't get the magical sunrise I would have hoped for, but at least we've got a little bit of light, a little bit of blue sky, so I'm going to stop waffling on, and I'm basically going to set up a shot, I think, because I think there might be something here to have. It's not the most tranquil spot I've ever photographed in the lakes. I'm right by the road. Made worse by the water level so high that normally I'll be able to get quite far out here. Well, there'd be a little beach. There's definitely no beach at the moment. I'm not sure if this shot's going to work. I could ideally need a big zoom on it. So I'm going to max out at my 105mm longest focal length, but that's just the way it is, really. So I was editing some of my photos last night in the van, and I have to say I've been really, really pleasantly surprised with the output from this camera. Okay, herein lies a limitation of this camera. Basically, the focusing points are all clumped in the middle. I'm not sure how many they are, maybe 7 or 9. However many there are, they're far too closely situated in the middle, all clumped together. And I need to compose this in such a way that basically there'll be nothing for it to focus on. 1/60th of a second, f11, ISO 100, that seems a bit too... So yeah, that is underexposed. I'm going to bring it up a stop. For me, this is the biggest problem with this camera, the lack of being able to look for a viewfinder, an EVF, to review your image. I think this lens has definitely got some barrel distortion going on. This road's incredibly busy. I think, as I said earlier on this trip, one thing I'm not enjoying about this camera is the really rubbish rear screen, because it's really hard to tell if your shots are in focus or anything. And of course, I'm so used to reviewing shots through my EVF, so yeah, it's... For me, that's the big problem with it. Probably nothing else. I think the rest of the cameras actually works really well. Well, to be honest, I don't know if I've got the shot. I do know it was 1/25th of a second, f11, ISO 100, circular polarizer fitted, and I'll put it on the screen for you now. I do find All's water a bit limiting from this side. I prefer to be over that side. I think if you can get a bit of height up on the fells, or if there's a little campsite round there that you can camp at, and then it's better for sunrise. I'm finding there's not as many subjects for photography this time of day as I would like, really. So I'm setting my tripod so low because basically I'm surrounded by trees and I don't want the branches getting in the way of the shots. And I think this could actually be quite a nice shot. I've got a nice clear view of woodland on the fell side. A nice few crags going on. But what I don't want is I don't want to have tree branches in the way. So by coming down low, I'm hoping I can shoot through about the only clear patch there is. I think as ever it's just a waiting game now. I really need the sun to hit the side of this, the side of the mountain to illuminate it, to give it some depth, because it has enough at the moment. Okay, we've got a little bit of light at the moment, if it stays like this. Right, I'm going to hang around a bit, I think, as the light's changing. And when I do get that shot that I'm finally happy with, I'll put it on the screen for you. Well guys, I think that was the last photo of the trip. It was only a short road trip and the weather hasn't been too kind, but I've still managed to take some photos I was actually really pleased with. But why on earth did I choose to bring out such an old camera? You know, this came out, what, the mid-noughties, so it's knocking on close to 20 years old. But do you know what? It still takes a damn good photo. Now, I do think that nowadays, social media, websites, magazines, what they're all trying to do is they're all trying to sell you things, because they're trying to sell you things basically because that's how they make the money from the manufacturers, and it makes sense. So it's easy to think that you need the latest camera, you know, you need that brand new mirrorless camera to be able to take any good photos, and if you haven't got it, you can't do it. And I can see it's been a real barrier for beginners. Somebody who wants to like become a landscape photographer perhaps, you know, just as a hobby, but they just can't afford to drop $1,000 on a camera. Okay, there are some cheaper options, but I don't think it's any as cheap as picking up a used Canon EOS 5D, the classic if you like, with a 28 to 80mm lens or 28 to 105, which I've got on at the moment. Again, relatively cheap. And you could even pick yourself up a tripod off Amazon, like not an unknown make, but a relatively cheap tripod, and you could easily start this hobby for £200. And the way I look at it is, it's better to have a camera that's going to produce some nice photos than to wait for the camera that might produce slightly better photos, but you can't actually use it or take any images because you can't afford to buy it. So, of course, there are downsides. The focusing points being in the middle, to be honest, drove me up the wall. And they weren't that good either, you know. They focused, but it wasn't brilliant. The rear screen, as I've discussed before, again, that was frustrating for me because basically when you're reviewing your shots, you can't really tell if they're sharp or not. But of course, back in the day, if you bought this camera, you come from a film camera, to suddenly have a screen at all with a histogram so you can see how your exposure was doing was, you know, an absolute game changer. But despite these negatives, what I would say is this camera takes a damn nice photo. The files have a lovely feel to them. The colours are nice, and they're the classic Canon colours, the colours I used to love. And I think when the 5D Mark II came out, I think something changed. And then the Mark III, for me, was the point when I did shy away from Canon a little bit because the colours weren't doing for me. But the 5D Classic, colours are beautiful. And as I say, 200 quid, you've got here a little landscape photography monster. Now, what I've been doing in Photoshop, I've actually been using the enhanced details mode to make into a high-res, super-res shot. And if you do that, honestly, the quality was brilliant. So, look, there's really not much more else I can say about this camera. It's more than capable for what most beginner photographers need it to do. And to be honest, if I could only use this one camera and this one lens, and I had access to absolutely nothing else, it wouldn't be the end of the world because I could still take a nice photo with it. And I think that's really the whole point, isn't it? Anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this trip. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you again soon for another one. Thanks for watching.